All right, I am R. Jacob Honeybrook. This is the Honeycut on TBM Horror. We have a very special guest today. I've been looking forward to talking with him. He is a filmmaker, a musician, and he hosts haunted attractions throughout the great state of Texas. Corey Trahan, aka Corey Trahan. What's
Yeah,
up, man? How you doing?
Trahan in Texas. That's right. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, brother. Yeah, I'm super excited to be on the show and talk about some of the projects and things going on. So,
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I'm sure you're a busy guy with everything going on.
oh, I always have time. I always have time for things like this. You don't get to talk about your projects much. Mostly it's work. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
So right off the bat, I just kind of listed your credentials. You have the new movie Black Quarry that just hit theaters. You're in the band The Immortalz. You have these haunted attractions. Right off the bat, as somebody who's also involved in a bunch of different stuff going on at once, man, how do you balance it? How do you make the time for all these different activities?
Yeah, that's a common question. And I think that, one of the things with me is really everything has a season, particularly even though like all year long I have two Halloween theme parks or haunted. They're sort of parks that have multiple haunted houses on them and things. And in Texas, one in Lubbock, Texas, Nightmare on 19th Street, and then one here in Austin, Texas, where I live, called Bat City Scaregrounds. And those things are real hot, and there's a lot of, and they really are time absorbing in the fall. So that's sort of the season. We build and we work at the parks pretty much all year long, but it only takes a day or two a week to go out. That I go out there, and that's the other brings me to the other point. Really, is all these things are working with crews, so it's not like I'm by myself doing these things with the band. It's obviously a band, and everybody does things for the band, and for our films, it's a whole film crew with producers and assistant directors. So I have a good team of people. It's not just me out there, just like by myself trying to get all these things done. I mean, obviously, I don't think any one person could ever do that, but so I do have. It takes a team on all those things, really. So.
Yeah, for sure. So I know you're probably excited to talk about your new film that dropped. That's why we're both here, is Black Quarry. I was gonna give the synopsis, but I'll let you do it, man. Tell us about this movie, what it's about, what you were going for. I mean, I thought it was awesome. I love black metal, so this is right up my alley.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, yeah. It's up. The Black Quarry is. It was my debut film as a director. We had so I had this theme park, and it's recently new, the Austin theme park, and we had been building a castle as one of the attractions. And a friend of mine, Sarah Webb, who is the Scara Damsel of the Dune hostess that starts off the Black Quarry. We were in the castle, and it's sort of like, it was so inspiring, the set production. And it was like, hey, let's film some stuff. Let's film Sarah and her character Scara walking through the castle. And so we went out, we sort of got our equipment, and we did a film. I didn't really know what it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be some shots maybe I would use as a commercial for the park or something. But the shots looked beautiful. They were really cool, and they were super inspiring to me because I'm a storyteller. And I'm like, dude, let's do a short film, and let me sort of write something. So I sort of wrote a script was called The Witch's Bargain. And that went on to win like over 50 international film festivals. It did extremely well. The cinematography and it's what's the most crazy about that is none of us were filmmakers, right? We were just artists in different capacities. And so we came together and we did this thing, and it just was really, really good. And so it was like, okay, well, that was short films in the film world are kind of like a learning tool, you go out in the field and you're actually learning how to be and so the Black Quarry was our first attempt at sort of going and trying to tackle a real feature-length film. Now, that film was supposed to be an anthology, like a throwback anthology film.
Right.
Yeah, like a creep show.
Like Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt, where Skara hosted, and she says she introduced two stories. It was going to be The Black Quarry, and then it was going to be Damsel of the Doomed. And so we shot The Black Quarry first, and of course we did her intro and stuff. And then we wrapped up the photography on that, and that was got edited, pretty much completed that part of what was going to be an anthology. And then we went to shoot Sarah actually wrote Damsel of the Doom, and we shot that, and then I had a large part of the editing on that. And so it became obvious that the page per script didn't really work out with her film like it did with mine, and that's a pretty standard guess at how long a film will be. If you look at a script, is usually it's a minute per page. Sorry. And so with mine, it just so happened that it just was perfect. You know, The Black Quarry was about a 50-page script, and it, you know, the run was about 55 minutes or so. With hers, it was around the same, but it landed at an hour and 20 minutes, and the pacing was good. I felt the pacing was good, and so it was clearly capable of being a standalone feature. So we decided to release The Black Quarry as a standalone feature, and then also release Damsel as just two standalone features instead of one anthology. So it really has that. Because of that, it's short, which I think you said that you really liked, and me too, because especially like, I think in this day and age, it's what's nice about it is if you just had a long day, you just want to pop on something and from at most an hour and watch something fun. It's a horror comedy, and so it's just meant to be fun. It's kind of a throwback. There are practical effects in it, kind of an Evil Dead style, over the top practical effects. Not much digital work is going on. Of course, I leveraged a lot of my makeup effects team from my theme parks, you know, and I think some of your other points where we can talk about that later. But you know, the film is just this sort of nostalgic throwback to creature features, which is what I love. And it's about a black metal band that goes out to a quarry to shoot a music video, and they resurrect a creature, and they sort of go toe to toe with this creature. So
Yeah, it's funny you say it's a creature feature throwback. I could see it being a drive-in movie or something that, what was his name? The show host on TNT that would always intro the monster movies. I could see it being something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you brought up a couple points there that I want to dive into, and the first, it is very surprising to me that none of you guys were filmmakers before this, because the way it is shot, it's just a nice movie to look at. Everything is crisp and it's good quality, like everything is on point, the audio. And man, how did you guys just tackle this? Were you like, hey, we want to make a movie, let's Google some stuff on how to do it?
Yeah, to be completely fair, we had friends that were professionally trained, and so they would come and jump on our set from time to time, and so we learned really fast from them, and they were sort of there as mentors along the way. And so we did have people that were trained in film. Once we drew attention pretty fast with our Witch's Bargain short, and people were like, other filmmakers in Austin community were like, damn, these guys are, but just a bunch of artists, but they have a good vision. And so we made friends really fast, and this film, The Black Quarry and the Damsel of the Doom, which is in film festivals now, they're micro budget films, just sort of hardcore indie, push through with very little budget, just on strictly sort of passion for filmmaking and telling a story alone. And it's really the heart and core of filmmaking is that. And so I think in some respects, when you're a filmmaker, you go through school, there is that sort of that can get lost fairly easily,
Sure.
The passion and the drive that you went to school for to begin with. I'm a proponent of school. I think it's great, don't get me wrong, but I do think that when you start to have to force to be, to do things to pay back school debt or whatever, and you're shooting commercials or whatever you're doing to be an active director or a working director or a working actor or something, it's easy to lose sight of why you started it, and why you started along that path to begin with. And those two films with our crew, that was the path. I mean, that was inspirational, and so we were able to attract some talent, and they helped us technically shoot the film. So we did have a director, a camera op who was a really talented camera op on the Black Quarry. So he was great. So a lot of those shots were him, and yeah, it was just basically us shooting until we got it right. And there were a lot of mistakes made, and we would shoot until we got it right. Yeah.
That's how you learn.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
So another point you brought up too is that this movie is a breeze to watch. It's about 45 minutes. I think 48 is the official runtime. It's very well paced. You're introduced to the characters, you get the setup, and then, things start to go south. What I know just from writing, like I tend to write shorter stories as well. And I kind of see that as the way media is going in the future, because people are busier than ever. We have social media, we have YouTube, which has millions of channels in and of itself. We're a far cry from throwing a movie and just hang out and watch it. Do you see media kind of going that way as well? More shorter form work being more prominent as we move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I don't have a great attention span. Like, obviously, you can see the projects, the things, I do to try to maintain attention. I don't have the best attention span. So on that, I can relate to, I'm a younger generation, right? So I'm sort of similar in that respect. But and I do think you look at films nowadays, and they're actually getting longer and longer, and I think there's certain content that definitely can benefit from that type of lengthy format, but also I think that sometimes it could just be gratuitous storytelling, and it's just unnecessary. And I actually think more often than not, something that is over a couple hours doesn't need to be over a couple hours. I think it's just gratuitous filmmaking. But and also with indie horror, it's sort of a little trade secret with indie horror to keep them short, and a lot of that is because storytelling at that level is not as mature, and you really have to have a solid story to really push lengths really hard, lengths to a couple hours or over a couple hours. You need to be an expert storyteller to be able to keep attention spans. It's at some point it's your gimmicks just sort of fade, and after a couple hours you're kind of like, what was going on? Why isn't this movie over? And so I think it has a place. I think this type of hour-long thing where you just tune in, you have an hour before you crash, or maybe you're just like, you can't sleep, so you put something on. I think that's, and obviously TV shows have taken advantage of that. And this is almost like that, where it's almost like just an episode of something. And in fact, if someone came to me and said, this is a pretty cool concept, it has a throwback Elvira vibe, let's tell some different stories and let's make them an hour long and make it a series, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it, dude. So I think that has a place today in film. And honestly, it's tell a story in that amount of time, and it can be pretty difficult because you don't have a lot of time for character development, and so you really got to get the point across, get the characters across, make it happen.
Yeah, I love what you said about it being episodic. I know in my own writing, I'm like, I try to think of it like I'm writing episodes for The Twilight Zone, which those stories are timeless. They always hold up. So, I mean, going back to the plot of the movie, we're introduced to the black metal band, Drown the Priest. First off, I gotta ask, was that kind of a nod to Lamb of God's original name, Burn the Priest?
Actually, my drummer in the band, the Immortalz, is a musician that I played with, and a good friend of mine that I played with for over a decade now. I have to admit, I'm not, you know, I know, of course, Lamb of God, you know, and I've heard of this, but I'm not a huge black metal guy in particular. But I've always played in hard rock bands, so I've been metal and hard rock bands my whole life, but not black metal in particular. And so this was like, he is way into it, dude. And so he was like, oh, you know, I'm like, man, I need some black metal music for this, dude, and I'll produce it, I'll engineer it. Just I'm gonna turn you loose, dude. Go write some ridiculous shit. Just make it to where it's the most like intense black metal music that you can do. And he's super technical, and he did the drums, the guitar, everything. And actually the one song that has vocals, the Scourge, the actor Ethan who plays Scourge, actually did do the vocals. And he's not traditionally a black metal singer. He just came over and I kind of coached him through it, you know. And so those vocals are actually the singer in the film, in the band. And so
Nice.
it was a fictional band, yeah. And so my drummer is just kind of one of these people that just comes up with these names that are just the most offending, you know. It's like he just took it as like, oh sweet dude, I just got this open license to just obliterate the public with something in this film. And I was like, yeah man, it's a comedy, so it needs to be over the top, you know. And so he just went back and within a few weeks he had one of those songs. Messianic Feticide was one of them,
Yeah.
and then Placentipede was the other, dude. And it was like, you know, and I was just like, oh my God, these are perfect, dude, you know. So I brought them in and I engineered them up for him and mastered them, mixed and mastered them and stuff. And we found him in the band. And there's this, he took a lot of fun liberties, like playing with the stereo spectrums, like you know, this sort of stuff. And so I had a lot of fun when on Scourge's death during those kind of you know, musical moments, played with them on the editing side of it and stuff. So yeah, it was great. It was like he was the perfect person. It's like he was gnawing at the bit to write some intense, I'm not even sure it's black metal, it's definitely metal, you know. So.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of songs that play throughout the movie, like metal songs for the soundtrack and everything. Did you guys do all of those as well?
No, some of it is by other musicians that are like, it's not necessarily, you know, for a micro budget film, you don't have music for licensing like you would if it was a regular budget film. So we had to go out and look for stock sort of, it's not stock, but it's musicians that write for film. And so they make their music available and it's not proprietary, you know. So, but it was still really good music. I still enjoy, you get to go through an encyclopedia of tunes and find stuff that fit, you know. And so there's definitely some music in there that we wrote, that Josh wrote, and that I produced and engineered. There's some other music in there that I just had hanging around. And then there's some of the sort of music that people just generically create and they provide and they put up and they host for films like this, where on micro budget levels, where you could just sort of license that music out and use it for your film.
Nice. So I've been around the heavy music scene for about 20 years or so. I've never been in a band, but I've interviewed bands, I've been at concerts that entire time. The way this movie starts at a Drown the Priest concert and their manager's trying to get the money from the bar owner. I mean, this seems like a story you've been through, man. Did you use your experience in bands for this?
Yeah, for sure, dude. I mean, like, you know, the thing is first off, that actor, Jason Rouse, is a very famous comedian, actually. So you can look him up, and he is brutal. Like, if he's very Andrew Dice Clay kind of. He is not for the faint of heart, but he's really popular. We're kind of lucky in Austin because ever since Joe Rogan kind of moved here, it's just been this comedy mecca. And like, he opened these bars up here. And so a ton of comedians moved here. And we got to know Jason Rouse because we interviewed him. And so he is the bar owner in that. So my favorite line ever is, "I hope you get raped in a fucking fire," you know. That was not scripted. That was literally just Jason. The guy that's busting the tables and stuff, Jared Nathan, he's also a comedian. that was on Kill Tony and stuff. So they were great to work with. But yeah, I mean, they say write what you know, and one thing that I know is being in bands and like just going around Texas, touring Texas and hard rock bands, original hard rock bands, and getting gypped by by bars and stuff. I'm not going to say that happens all the time, but it certainly does happen. But I wrote what I knew, which was a band on the road, the type of interaction band members have, which is always ridiculous, and they're just trying to entertain themselves is what it comes down to, it being on the road, which is extremely just mind-numbingly boring. And so you'll do just about anything to entertain each other on the road. And so that's, and I don't think that I don't think that you always should write what you know as a writer. I think that when you start, it's the easiest thing. It is when you're trying to focus on things like technical ability to write. You don't want to have to worry about, you want to go ahead and write what you know, but I mean, later when you become a mature writer, I think it's fun to go outside of what you know and do research and learn about whatever it is, history or the culture or something new, and then write about that. But I was that was the first script that I had ever written, and so I wrote what I knew, which was being in a dirty, nasty metal or hard rock band, and their sort of like banter and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely shows through. It feels authentic. Like you have the lead singer who takes everything way too serious, which I think we all know somebody like that. And then you have the bassist and the drummer who are just kind of these bumbling guys that are along for the ride. I thought the chemistry between not only the band members, but also their English manager who has like a Simon Cowell feel to him. I thought it all worked so well together. I mean, they all had great chemistry.
I really appreciate that you got that. I mean, Scotty is an actor out of San Antonio, and he is the band manager, and he brought the British accent. Like in his audition, we went through Actors Access, and we had a bunch of people sending their audition tapes. Nowhere was it written that manager had that British accent, and he did 2 auditions, one with it and one without it. And the one with the British accent completely caught us off guard. We're like, what the fuck? What's going on? And then after listening to it, I'm like, man, I kind of like it. I kind of like it. And so we're like, you know what? It's a comedy. So comedies can be forgiving. Like they can just be a little bit more forgiving. And so I'm like, let's try it out and see if it works. And I think it did. It was fun. It definitely made for a fun character, memorable character.
Yeah, and you get the sense from him that he's used to managing like pop bands or singers, and then he's stuck with these guys in this grody van blasting metal, smoking weed.
Yeah, right.
So we are also introduced to a team of videographers. There's 2 of them. Noah, and then his partner, the lead photographer. What was her name? That's escaping me right now.
The director is the actress name is Shakira.
Yes.
And her name is Sophie in the film.
Sophie.
That was a very interesting. Both of them were just fantastic to work with. Great people. Noah is Bobo is the actor's name. He is from Houston, Texas, and Shakira is from Chicago. And they both submitted independent, of course, auditions, and we had narrowed it down to a few people for those roles, and Bobo just had us dying. Bobo is the director of photography in the film.
Okay.
Noah, yeah, and so he just his audition just had us rolling. It's just something about his character. And then we thought, and then Shakira's audition was very much the way you expected, like very alpha female, kind of like getting shit done. And we just, in the end, we're just like, we got to put these 2 together because we were just fascinated to see what kind of dynamics they would, and it was great. Their dynamics were great. They really played off each other. Fantastic. Bobo was phenomenal from a comedy perspective. He nailed it. every aspect of that character. He took it and ran with it, and just never had a problem. Even when we had to get his face cast for the rip for the face.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler alert.
The face rip.
Yeah, the face rip. Right. So I mean, he that's not always super easy, and so he had never done anything like that. He was a trooper through that, and it was great. Those two were great to work with.
Yeah, I love their dichotomy because you have Noah, who is this sheltered kid. I think Sophie calls him a bubble boy. And then she's just there to do her job and get her stuff done. And just how they play off each other. I mean, they were one of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, people, it was just, people love those two. I think we made the right call. Well, I know we made the right call in the end. I like very defined characters, character actors. I'm a big fan of Rob Zombie because of that. Like, I love actors that you're gonna remember, and not these sort of, standard stamp faces where it's like everybody looks the same, And so, to me, those two characters in particular are people that you're gonna remember after the film, So.
Yeah, so without giving too many spoilers away, like you said, there is a creature in this, and this creature is a demon. And man, this thing looks awesome. I loved the design of this. How did you come up with it? Like, did you use your haunted house knowledge to design this thing? Like, tell me more about this demon that we see.
Yeah, so the mask, yeah. So I, of course, being a part of haunted houses and stuff for almost 20 years now, I'm very hooked into the network of mask makers and stuff. And the mask itself was made by Immortal Studios. It's a silicone mask, and that was sort of the initial inspiration. Like, I needed something that the quarry creature comes from a rock quarry that's been filled up with water, but it's an earthen kind of creature. So I needed something that felt that way, kind of had that sort of neutral tones and rocky vibe, and so the mask is where it started. And I sort of worked with this. There's that studio. We found a paint job and stuff that worked, and then my production artist, her name is Kayla Stojic. She's also the owner of Zombie Peep Show, who does horror fashion for like Lady Gaga, and just huge.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible horror heels and jackets, and amazing artist. She's also a production artist for me at my theme park in Bat City Scareground. And so, Kayla created the rest of the suit, just pretty much single-handedly went through and just built out the suit that sort of went with the mask. And so, I was just blown away by that effort and her ability to be able to take the mask and to finish the whole creature suit. And so it's from head to toe, you know what I mean? So the whole thing was there, and it started off with latex. It's a latex suit, and also kudos to Charles Nestle, the actor that played that character, because that was not an easy suit to wear for hours.
I bet in Texas as well. That was probably pretty hot.
Right, yeah, he would be soaking wet. Yeah. As a matter of fact, whenever he drops Scourge's head on the ground and he sort of looks around, there's this like spit that just pours out, and it looks like the creature. It looks like it was supposed to be, but it was just literally sweat that had collected. If you're familiar with that, with wearing silicone mask, it's pretty standard that they'll collect in the bottom of your lip and they'll just sort of pour out, So
man,
it was hot, dude. And walking out into the lake at the end was a whole situation. Too. So, and he couldn't exactly lift up his arms really well with it because it's latex, right? And so, time he had to lift up, like when he catches Scourge's arms, it was like it was really hard for him to do that. So we'd have to give him a break for a little while. Real trooper, man. Real trooper for our abuse.
Yeah, I've heard stories like that from guys who have to wear the werewolf suits or monster costumes, man. So major respect to him for doing that out in the Texas heat.
Because nobody recognizes you, right? You're just
right.
it's almost a thankless job. It's like,
Hmm.
hey, I was in the movie, but nobody recognizes you, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, Chuck would come to our red carpets and our showings, and everybody's like, "You were in the movie, dude?" He was like, "Yeah." And not only was I in the movie, but my job sucked. Like, you know, like,
So with the special effects going along with the monster, everything is practically done. It didn't look like you guys used any CGI, or if you did, I didn't notice it. You kind of mentioned this about the monster, but did you also use your knowledge of haunted house theme park attractions in the special effects for this one?
yeah, for sure. So my two makeup keys were Stormy Steen and Gwyneth Williamson, and they both work for me at Bat City Scaregrounds as makeup effects artists. And so it definitely was useful to have, super helpful to have the whole team of makeup artists there, and I think to some degree they all contributed something to the film, whether they were just assistants or something. And so a large reason why that film was so successful and it won awards for its practical effects at Houston Horror and other things, was because I was lucky enough to have a great team of makeup effects. And even outside of that, there was some minimal CGI stuff, but it was like just tad bit here and there. It was very little, some small enhancements, very minimal, and they were sort of done by Ross Hamill and Chisholm McEachorn, I think is how you pronounce it. But those two are great, and they went on to play bigger parts in Damsel of the Doomed. But yeah, I was really lucky to have that. Now I will say this: the blood fountains and stuff was new, so that was not something that I'd ever done at my theme parks. That's strictly a film sort of situation. You're never gonna blow through gallons of blood like that. Although it would be sweet,
Yeah.
So we didn't know anything about water cannons and water extinguishers and stuff. And so me and one of my production guys, Robert Taylor, and Lynn Day, another production guy at my theme park, I bought a water extinguisher and we ran the wires up a body and we did a bunch of testing with it. So there was definitely some experimentation when it came to the blood squirts, and there was some CGI, like when the head roll, the symbol head
Oh
sort of.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. So that was the Hamill Brothers Studios and Chisholm. So
Nice. So this one came out in mid-March. I was doing some research. It looks like the reviews are all 7, 8 out of 10. I would say that's very solid.
yeah, it could be worse.
Right? I mean, hey, anytime I get anything above a 1-star review, I'm like, man, this is awesome. So, have you gotten any more feedback? Has anybody been like, hey, we really love this movie, or what's the general word been about Black Quarry?
Yeah, I think that, in general, people have been enjoying it. I haven't, other than, I haven't had a ton of feedback so far because it's pretty recently came out, as far as like just random people that I don't know giving me back feedback. But also, I don't know if it's that type of movie, to be honest with you. I think it's the kind of thing you just watch, you have fun, and then you go about your life. I don't think that necessarily is the type of, you're going, oh well, I got to leave this critical, I'm going to go and review. It's like, I can see that if you were to spend an hour and a half on something, or an hour and 45, you're like, oh god, I'm going to keep somebody from wasting their whole evening on this. But for such a short little thing that you can just take a second and go watch and have a good time watching, I think that saves it a little bit with extreme critical feedback. And so, because I always expect the worst, because I have friends in the film community and I see what's going down, and I know, and everybody's got an opinion, and I understand. As a musician, nobody understands that more than I do. And so it is really nice to hear back from people like you, and I have heard back from a lot of people saying, man, I really enjoyed this film. And that's all I can ask, is like, it's just meant to be watched and had fun. And that's really what it is, what the film is.
That is really cool to hear. that you made this movie to have fun. You want people to have fun with it. And I think it goes to show that not everything has to be this magnum opus of brilliance. Like, you can just make something to have fun with it. And I think some of the best art comes from that.
Yeah, I think so. It was a learning. Every film that I do at this point as a director is like a stepping stone to a better film, and so and so it was an incredible first step, or second, I guess. Well, first feature stepping stone to future work as a director and a storyteller for me.
Yeah.
So for me, regardless of the feedback, it served its purpose, which was get me on set, learning how to become a film director. I've been directing theme parks, which is not so asimilar. It's pretty similar, but there are some nuances and differences between a theme park and a film, and like long hours, the endurance it takes to direct a micro budget film. I mean, you're on set for 13, 14 hours, some of those months. Yeah.
It's a long day.
Right. And so, for me, that's what that film was. And so regardless of how, if, of how well it does or whatever, it definitely has served its purpose for me. But I do think that people are going to enjoy the film if they watch it.
For sure. And you brought up a good point there as far as just learning about filmmaking and directing. What were maybe some of the biggest things you learned, or the biggest takeaway you got from finally directing a feature film?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I learned, and I kind of already knew it, but it's just until you go through the process, it's one of those things. It's pre-production is vital. To really not have to settle on set, you really need to do your homework, and that was one of those films where I feel like we did a pretty decent job at that, but there were definitely times during it where we were like, oh man, now we're gonna have to figure this out on set because we didn't really think about this before. And so what are we gonna do? And it would delay everything, and then actors are chilling out and everybody's hot because it's a Texas day and we're at this park in the woods, and it's like you're sitting there like, oh, if we would have just thought about this, if we would have just put more thought before getting out here, this wouldn't be a problem. And so there was a lot of that learning, that process of, like I said, none of us, except for maybe friends that would come in, none of us were real filmmakers. So we had to learn the hard way, which was by screwing up, or by having to go back and do reshoots or whatever it is that was extremely time consuming and could be expensive. So pre-production, I think, is really the thing I learned the most, outside of just learning what you have to do to be a director on that type of film, which is you're really, as a director, you're the head of your ship, right? And so your morale, how you present yourself to the crew, late hours, people are tired, people are starting to get cranky, you have to be the one to have the uplift and to create that uplifting environment and to have the positivity and to spread the positivity. And I've always heard these stories about these directors from the 70s and 80s and 60s that were just like intense and just rude and just whatever on set, and then I read nowadays that whole, in Hollywood in particular, was a whole shift against that, and nowadays like directors have a very different demeanor on set, and they really are leaders, and you have to be a leader, and I think that a charismatic leader of your crew. So there was that definitely was something that I learned, how to endure and be a positive light for your crew and keep your crew positive and moving forward. And then technically pre-production. Yeah.
So you're also in a band, but before we move on to that, I just gotta ask, is there anything else that you want to say about the Black Quarry, or anything I might have missed?
No, I think that's about it. I would just say go check it out. It's on Amazon and YouTube. It's on iTunes. It's on streaming platforms right now. It's really cheap, dude. It's like $3.99 or $4 just to even buy it. Buy it because it's like $1 difference than renting it. And if you buy on those platforms, the filmmaker gets actually half, so they get more money if you rent it. Yeah, and so do the filmmaker, help the filmmaker out by buying it, and then send us over a comment. Like go to horrorweb.com or go to our social media. It's just horrorweb, and usually it's going to be me or Scare that's going to answer back. I'd love to hear back from you guys. Let me know what you think of the film. So
right on. There you go. Be sure you guys check out Black Quarry or The Black Quarry. I always forget the. I don't know what's wrong with me.
yeah, same.
All right. So you're also in a horror-themed punk band. It's called the Immortalz. You guys just put out a new single and a new music video to go along with it, Spooky Shit, and that just came out at the end of last month, beginning of this month, so pretty fresh. What can you tell us about the new song and this new video, man?
Yeah, the band started in 2020. I'd always been in harder edge, sort of art rock bands most of my life, and then COVID hit, and I had the band that I was in at the time. Our guitar player had a kid, so it was getting pretty obvious that it's pretty limiting, like as far as like being able to get out and play. And so I was talking to Sarah at the time, who is Scara, the horror hostess on The Black Quarry, and we had been doing a lot of things together. And she works for me at my park, and she's kind of the hostess at my park and stuff. I'm like, I really want to do something fun and just lay off the intense, like, I'm not intense sort of conceptual, like like I said, like I've been in progressive sort of art rock bands, right? So
Gotcha.
And I just wanted to have fun with something for the first time and just do something theatrical and merge these aspects of my life, the horror, passion, theatrical stuff, and just write straightforward songs that were about creatures. I love creatures. I'm a creaturey kind of guy. And just have a lot of fun. And I'm like, hey, Sarah, would you be interested in singing? And she's like, yeah. And I'd been singing, in my bands for a while, and I was kind of tired of it. And she said, yeah. And so the band, my current band at the time, minus the guy that couldn't do it, she just joined, and we formed the Immortalz in COVID, and we played for about a year. We practiced and we wrote a bunch of music for about a year. And then we started playing, and that band has just done extremely well in Austin, Texas. Who would have thunk it, right? A theatrical band that just does really, we're very visual. The band live, where there's shenanigans going on stage. So it's kind of like a stripped down version of Guar.
Nice.
Not so overtly sexual and stuff, but definitely like shenanigans and things that are going on stage. Like we are a spectacle on stage where me and our drummer and a bass player, we were vampires and she's a witch. And so we all, and our songs are about things like a mummy bat or a pet werewolf that pisses on your carpet. So they're just kind of lighthearted, fun, spooky songs, right? And so early on, I wrote a lot of the lyrics for the band, and they were very creature featurey lyrics, like Wildor the Goblin Magician. It's about a goblin magician, and then the mummy bat. And then slowly, as Sarah became more comfortable being in the band, and she started writing her own lyrics, and there was sort of an evolution of our band with respect to our lyrical content. So nowadays, she does all that, and Spooky Shit is definitely is a song that is for her very misfitsy sort of kind of vibe where she's just celebrating her love for all things Halloween, and you can see that in our video. The video was directed and produced not by me. I actually like to, when it comes to music, I try to take a step back and not do any of the film stuff. I just try to be a musician in that capacity, and I have a really good friend who I had been doing a musical score for him for his documentary, feature-length documentary about a popular metal bar in Austin called the Back Room, and we've become really good friends, him and our band, and he has shot every single one of our videos through the years, so we probably have 5 or 6 now that he has shot. And
Nice.
so this is by far our favorite one. I think it's his favorite one that he shot. It was shot on site at my theme park, Bat City Scaregrounds. It's great because we have that whole place to go shoot in, right? So it's like
Yeah.
billion sets, and the song's about spooky shit. So it's like, just pick where you want to shoot, dude. There's a ton of really cool scenes in here. And he chose the tunnel that you see in the video, which is the corpse kind of tunnel.
Yeah.
That corpse tunnel was actually produced by the producer of the Black Quarry Creature, Kayla. So
Nice.
she made that tunnel. Yeah, she spent probably a month and a half creating that tunnel right before we opened the park. And so you can kind of see where everything is kind of all, everybody kind of, the synergy between all these things that we do or whatever. So yeah, it's fantastic to work with. And that song is doing really well. Super excited about how well it's doing. We all are.
That's awesome to hear. It's going well for you. And I like that you have a built-in music video set, multiple ones. You can avoid the standard abandoned warehouse.
Right. Yeah.
So do you guys, I'm sure you go on tour and everything like that. Do you play any like horror conventions, or do you play at the park? I know I've been to haunted houses where they have bands playing. Do you guys do that stuff? That seems like it'd be a great fit.
We of course, being a musician, the first thing I built in Austin theme park is a really cool stage. So it's a big giant stage, and the Immortalz plays. We play pretty much all the big Saturdays in October, and we have played during some conventions. Like last year, we were asked, Houston Horror Film Festival, we were asked to play a show that sort of happened the night of. So it's more of like, I don't know if it was 100% affiliated with it, but like it was kind of like an after party kind of thing, that kind of stuff. So we are often asked to do that kind of thing. I mean, the biggest problem that we have with the Immortalz is that everyone in the band, except for our drummer, is works at the theme park, that city. And so the month that we're constantly asked to do things, we're all busy, right? Because we're all working at Bat City Scaregrounds, and so like running it, and Sarah's doing the hosting, and John actually owns, our bass player, actually owns all the concessions at the park. And so it's like, so playing there is easy, but doing anything else in October, which is whenever we're constantly asked to do things, is just not an option. Same thing with film festivals, like horror film festivals. Like we're constantly asked, we're selected to be in horror film festivals, both the Black Quarry and Damsel. It's like, that's cool, but we can't make it, man. Like,
because everything happens in October. We need to spread Halloween out throughout the year.
I agree, 100%.
So on top of everything else, like you mentioned, you're already working on your next movie, and you have an Indiegogo site for it. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. So so right now, what's going on? The Black Quarry is out and streaming. You can go watch it. Damsel of the Doomed, which is sort of our next level of film, where we were leveling up as a team and me as a director, is a film that Sarah wrote and is about her character. So it's imagine watching an Elvira movie about Elvira. So it's very similar to that. That is in film festivals now. It's done fantastic. It's won a bunch of awards and stuff. And so we're talking to distribution people and stuff. So my plan is to get that out by October. So just in time for spooky season. And then what my next sort of thing, what's going on right now is I'm trying to move out of this micro budget, and I'm shooting another film next year called DemonCode, which is a bigger budget film. And it is I guess for lack of a better word, an elevated horror film. It's very different than the two films that I've sort of directed so far, where Black Quarry was a horror comedy. Damsel of the Doom is kind of a horror drama comedy. Light on the comedy, more of a drama kind of thing. And this is more of kind of think Hellraiser meets The Matrix.
Cool.
Yep, the story is about a quantum physicist who gets his quantum computer working, breaks through reality, and finds out and unleashes hell. Believe it or not, my day job is none of this. My day job is I am a physicist. I'm a quantum physicist. That's
what?
I know. I
That's
know
awesome.
very few people believe that, but that is actually what I do, and I work at the University of Texas in Austin as a lecturer, and I also work for the Department of Defense. And so I publish papers on quantum computing and quantum AI, and so that's sort of my field. And it's just I got my PhD when I was young in the field, and so I've been doing it for a long time. But so this film is definitely a direction that I've always wanted to go, but not it hadn't quite felt that I was ready for it, right? Because it is a difficult, ambitious film, and the subject matter is complicated and complex. It has a message to the film, and it is a franchisable film. So you could think it's like a Hellraiser franchise or something. And so it's built on the recipe that I know is successful for horror franchises. And so I think I'm very close to getting that project greenlit. Already in the creature design, Kayla, who did the Black Quarry creature design, is doing one of the creatures in the film. And I also have award-winning Face Off, a guy who's been on Face Off multiple times. He's creating 3 other creatures in the film. Matt Valentine is his name. And so I've known Matt for a long time. He was a crowd favorite in the Face Off for many years. And so the creatures have already been starting to get designed for this, and the producers are coming online. Things are happening. It'll probably be something that I shoot next spring of next year. And so what's going on now with that is that there's an Indiegogo campaign. So you can go out, you can get your name in the credits, you can get exclusive merchandise. And that campaign is just to help out with some of the pre-production, like helping out with some of the the funding for the creatures and stuff. So if you want to get your name and you want to be involved with that film, then you can go and you can buy a perk or something on Indiegogo. And you can find that by going to www.horrorweb, one word, HORRORWEB.com, horrorweb.com, click DemonCode, take you straight to the Indiegogo campaign. So it's a great way to just to support indie film, which is where innovation comes from. I think most of us know that the redundancy of Hollywood is not where people are innovating storylines and narratives, and it's very seldom does something new come out of Hollywood. It comes out of the indie world with those people who are not being forced upon a recipe, forced to follow a recipe by Wall Street or whatever. And so this is a chance to sort of be a part of that innovation and go get your name in the credits and have some fun stuff. So.
Man, now that I know you're a physicist, I have so many more questions for you, but we'll have to do that another time.
Situation.
I'll ask you one more question. I always like to hear people's opinions on this, especially ones who are out here doing this stuff. A lot of people say they want to make a movie. A lot of people say they want to start a band. A lot of people say, oh, I want to run a haunted house attraction. You did all 3, and you continue to do all 3. What advice would you give somebody who wants to get into any of this stuff? Or maybe what would you have said to your younger self who might be like, whoa, I'm doing all of this?
Yeah, I would say something that I always think about, and it's still relevant today for me, is there are 1,000 reasons why you can think of to not do something. And you can sit there, you can sort of justify to yourself, oh, well, I'm probably never going to make any money off this, or, oh, well, it's going to take a lot of time, or that's going to be really hard. I don't know how I'm going to do that. And other people will find 1,000 reasons for you not to do something in your life. And the fact of the matter is you have to just sort of be this sort of hopeless individual. You have to be this person, the type of person that finds this hope, can just say, I don't care about all of that, all the reasons why this is not going to happen, or I can't do this, or whether they're fiscal reasons or whether they're, it just seems like there's a mountain that you'll never get across. You have to be the kind of person that will take a step forward. and it starts with small things, and then persist, man. You have to persist, and you cannot give in to the 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't do something. You just can't, you know. I mean, with film, there were 1,000 reasons. I mean, the very first is none of us went to school for this. What are we doing? I mean, you know, we're just imposter syndrome out the butt, right? It's like, what are we doing? People go to school, they spend thousands of dollars at the university level to become film people, and here we are just trying to do it. Why? What makes you think what makes us think we can actually do this? And we did. And it was the reason what made us think we could actually do that is us. We thought we could, and you know, and we wouldn't give up, and we persisted, and we went back, we did the reshoots, and we just said, no, we're going to do it. And that's really what it comes down to. So don't convince yourself not to take a step forward, because it's super easy, and that's what most people will do. Most people, it starts with you convincing yourself why you shouldn't do something.
Amen to that, man. Very wise words. So I know we've kind of been shooting this stuff out as we've been going, but as we wrap it up here, do you want to tell us one more time where we can find you, your movies, your haunted houses, the Immortalz? Where can we find all that stuff at?
Yeah. You can all the film stuff. You can go to horrorweb.com. You can find us on social media like Facebook and Instagram. Just type in horrorweb. They'll take you to those things. That is essentially our production company, and so that will give you updates on when Damsel of the Doom is going to be released. On there, it'll tell you where you can find the Black Quarry streaming. You can't just do a search under the Black Quarry; it'll show up on all the places it's streaming to. So we have a big enough internet footprint to where it's not super hard to find our stuff. The Immortalz, Spotify, Apple Tunes, just type in the Immortalz with a Z. It's not plural with an S. It's the Immortalz with a Z. So just take a note of that. And then our videos will pop up on YouTube, all the major music streaming apps. And for DemonCode, if you want to be a part of our Indiegogo campaign and be a part of that film and that franchise, just go over to the Horror Web website and just click on the DemonCode menu button. It'll take you right there. So,
all right, Corey, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's great questions. Great.
Oh, thank you. All right, man. Take it easy. We'll have to do this again sometime for sure.
Bye, y'all.
Prepare yourself for one hell of a tale about a little old black metal band who almost made it. This is the story of Drown the Priest, in a tale I like to call The Black Quarry.
We are Drown the Priest! You are hellbound heathens! The band is on the edge now. They're about to break. The boys are excited about this video. Let's get excited, bro.
I heard last year he sacrificed a lamb or something at a secret show in Portland.
Oh, is Miss Super Important Tough Lady Director scared of a weirdo devil worship? All of that is just for show.
They're a great band and everything, but I could really do without all that satanic shit.